Most people think caves are quiet. They're wrong. Caves are never truly silent. Water drips. Air moves. Rock shifts. And sometimes you hear things that shouldn't be there at all. My name is Ethan Walker, and for 7 years I worked as a tour guide at Mammoth Cave National Park. If you've never heard of it, Mammoth Cave is the largest known cave system on Earth. More than 400 miles have been mapped. And every year explorers discover more. New tunnels. New chambers. New passages. The official maps only show a fraction of what's actually down there. That's something the public never learns. The second thing the public never learns is that every guide receives a list of rules. A strange list. A list we're told never to discuss with visitors. When I first started working there, I assumed the rules existed to prevent accidents. Then I read them. Rule 1: if a visitor claims they hear footsteps behind the group, continue walking and do not stop. Rule 2: never allow a tour group to exceed its listed head count. Rule 3: if someone reports seeing lights deeper in the cave, immediately end the tour. Rule 4: if a child begins speaking to someone who isn't visible, remove them from the cave. Rule 5: never enter echo chamber after 5 p.m. Rule 6: if you hear whistling, turn off your flashlight and remain silent. Rule 7: count the visitors every 15 minutes. Then there was Rule 8. The rule nobody explained. Rule 8: if the count increases, do not count again. That was it. No explanation. No details. Just those words. If the count increases, do not count again. I asked my supervisor about it once. An older guide named Reynolds. 20 years underground. 20 years following the rules. His face immediately changed. He looked genuinely uncomfortable. Then he said something I'll never forget. Because if you count again. A pause. It notices. At the time I laughed. Reynolds didn't. Neither did anyone else. That should have been my warning. For nearly 2 years nothing unusual happened. Tours came and went. Visitors took photographs. Kids asked questions. Life remained normal. Or at least as normal as life can be inside a cave. Then came the Harrison Group. 23 visitors. Standard historical tour. Nothing unusual. At least initially. The first hour passed without incident. The tourists seemed excited. Curious. Everything felt routine. Then one little girl raised her hand. She couldn't have been older than 8. Her name was Lily. She pointed toward a dark side tunnel. Who's that? Every hair on my neck stood up. The tour stopped. Parents looked confused. Who's who? Her mother asked. Lily pointed again. That man. Nobody else or anything. The tunnel remained empty. Dark. Silent. My stomach tightened. Rule 4. If a child begins speaking to someone who isn't visible, remove them from the cave. I immediately ended the tour. The visitors weren't happy. Several complained. One demanded a refund. I didn't care. Within 20 minutes everyone was back above ground. Everyone except Lily. The little girl kept looking over her shoulder. Toward the cave entrance. As though someone stood inside watching her leave. The next morning I learned something disturbing. Lily had spent the entire night talking in her sleep. According to her parents, she repeated the same sentence for hours. He wants us to come back. That afternoon Reynolds called me into his office. For the first time he looked nervous. Very nervous. Then he handed me a photograph. The image showed the Harrison Group. Taken inside the cave shortly before the tour ended. My blood immediately ran cold. 24 people appeared in the photograph. Not 23. 24. The extra person stood near the back. Partially hidden in darkness. Watching the camera. Watching the group. Watching me. The figure looked human. Mostly. But its proportions felt wrong. Too tall. Too thin. The face appeared blurred. As if the camera couldn't focus on it. My stomach dropped. Who is that? Reynolds looked exhausted. His answer came quietly. We don't know. The room suddenly felt colder. What do you mean you don't know? The older guide stared at the photograph. Then said something that terrified me. Because it isn't always the same one. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the photograph. The extra figure. The rules. The warnings. And most importantly, Rule 8. If the count increases, do not count again. The next morning I led another tour. 21 visitors. Nothing unusual. At least at first. 30 minutes into the route I performed a routine head count. 21. Everything normal. 15 minutes later I counted again. 22. My blood froze. I immediately stopped walking. The tourists noticed. Everything okay? I didn't answer. I counted again. 23. The moment I reached the final number, every flashlight inside the cave went out. Simultaneously. And somewhere deep in the darkness, something started counting back. The darkness swallowed everything. 1 second earlier, dozens of flashlight beams illuminated the passage. The next, nothing. Pure black. The kind of darkness only caves can create. Darkness so complete it feels physical. The tourists immediately panicked. People started shouting. Asking questions. Calling out names. Several phones appeared. Their screens wouldn't turn on. Neither would the emergency lantern attached to my belt. My stomach dropped. Every light source had failed simultaneously. Then I heard it. A voice. Far deeper inside the cave. 1. The word echoed endlessly. My blood froze. The tourists fell silent. Everyone heard it. The voice came again. 2. A woman near the front grabbed my arm. What is that? I couldn't answer. Because I already knew. Something was counting. And it was counting us. 3. The voice sounded human. Almost. Yet there was something wrong with it. Each number arrived slightly distorted. Like someone who had learned language by listening through water. 4. The echoes rolled through the tunnels. Growing louder. Closer. Then I remembered Rule 8. If the count increases, do not count again. Because if you count again, it notices. My pulse hammered. I had counted again. And now something knew we were there. The voice continued. 5. Someone started crying. Another tourist began praying. The darkness felt alive now. Heavy. Watching. Waiting. Then my radio crackled. The sudden sound nearly made me jump. Static filled the speaker. Then Reynolds' voice emerged. Broken. Distorted. Ethan. Relief flooded through me. For a moment. Then I remembered another rule. Rule 3. If someone reports seeing lights deeper in the cave, immediately end the tour. The rules connected. Everything connected. Because the voice on the radio didn't sound right. Ethan. The transmission crackled. Don't answer it. My stomach tightened. Answer what? Then the counting stopped. Silence returned. The entire cave became still. For several seconds nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Then a flashlight suddenly turned on. A tourist's phone. The beam illuminated the tunnel. People sighed with relief. Others turned on their own lights. One by one the darkness retreated. The nightmare seemed over. Until we counted again. 23. The exact same number. The tour should have contained 21 visitors. Not 23. My blood ran cold. Somewhere among us, 2 extra people stood inside the group. And nobody knew who they were. I looked around. Every face appeared normal. Families. Couples. Tourists. Children. Nothing unusual. Nothing obvious. Yet the numbers didn't lie. 23. The problem was simple. I no longer knew which 21 belonged there. Then a man near the back raised his hand. His voice trembled. I thought there were more of us. The comment made everyone uncomfortable. Another tourist nodded. I was thinking the same thing. A woman frowned. Wait. She looked around nervously. Who are those 2 people? Silence. Every visitor began studying the group. Searching. Comparing faces. Trying to identify strangers. Nobody could. My pulse accelerated. Because I had the same problem. I recognized every visitor from the tour roster. Yet somehow, the count remained wrong. Then I noticed something. Near the rear of the group stood a tall man. Middle-aged. Dark jacket. Gray backpack. At first glance he seemed ordinary. But I couldn't remember him entering the cave. The realization made my stomach drop. I checked the roster. No matching name. No matching description. Then the man smiled. And every hair on my body stood up. Not because the smile looked threatening. Because nobody else reacted. Nobody else seemed to notice him. The tourists continued talking. Arguing. Counting one another. Yet the stranger stood directly among them. Ignored. Like he existed in a blind spot. Then his lips moved. Only slightly. Barely visible. And he whispered. 24. My blood froze. The count had increased again. Without anyone moving. Without anyone arriving. The stranger's smile widened. Then every flashlight flickered simultaneously. Once. Twice. 3 times. The cave light suddenly returned. Emergency systems activating throughout the tunnel. A pre-recorded announcement echoed overhead. Guides report immediately to operations. The message repeated twice. Then ended. I wasted no time. The tour was evacuated immediately. Nobody argued. Most visitors looked relieved. Some looked terrified. Within an hour everyone reached the surface. Everyone except the tall man. Because when I reviewed security footage later, he wasn't there. Not entering. Not exiting. Not appearing on any camera. Yet dozens of visitors remembered speaking with him. One woman claimed he walked beside her for nearly 20 minutes. A teenager remembered him giving directions. Another tourist remembered him taking photographs. The photos contained no trace of him. None. Like he had never existed. That night Reynolds finally told me the truth. Or at least part of it. We sat alone in the operations office. The old guide looked exhausted. Older than usual. Then he opened a locked drawer. Inside sat dozens of photographs. Decades worth. Missing visitors. Missing guides. Missing explorers. Hundreds. My stomach tightened. What happened to them? Reynolds sighed. Then pointed toward the cave map hanging on the wall. Most of Mammoth Cave appeared marked in green. Safe. Surveyed. Documented. But a large section had been blacked out completely. Hidden. Restricted. The old guide tapped the dark area. This is where they went. A chill crawled through me. What is it? His answer came immediately. The unmapped level. My pulse quickened. Mammoth Cave already contained hundreds of mapped miles. The idea of an entire hidden level beneath it felt impossible. Reynolds continued. It isn't on public maps. It isn't on government maps. And it shouldn't exist. The room suddenly felt smaller. Then he revealed a photograph. And everything changed. The image showed explorers standing inside a massive cavern. The date read 1978. Every explorer in the picture was smiling. The same unnatural smile. The exact same smile worn by the stranger. Then I noticed something else. The people in the photograph weren't alone. Hundreds of figures stood behind them in the darkness. Watching. Waiting. Being counted. Then Reynolds quietly said the words that haunted me for years afterward. The cave is getting crowded. And somewhere far below Mammoth Cave. Something counted again. 25. The cave is getting crowded. Those were the last words Reynolds said before leaving the operations office. I sat there alone for nearly an hour, staring at the blacked-out section of the map. The unmapped level. A place that supposedly didn't exist. A place connected to every disappearance. A place connected to the thing counting in the dark. My instincts told me to forget everything. To quit my job. To leave Mammoth Cave forever. Instead, I made the worst decision of my life. I went looking for answers. 3 nights later I found them. Or at least part of them. The entrance to the unmapped level wasn't hidden behind a secret door. It wasn't locked away underground. It was hiding in plain sight. Deep beyond Echo Chamber. The area visitors never entered. The area guides avoided after 5 in the evening. Rule 5. Never enter Echo Chamber after 5 p.m. Now I finally understood why. At 11:43 p.m. I stood outside the chamber entrance. Alone. Flashlight in hand. Radio attached to my belt. Every instinct screamed at me to turn around. The cave felt different at night. Heavier. Almost alive. The silence seemed to listen. I stepped inside. Echo Chamber earned its name honestly. Every movement produced endless reflections. Every breath returned seconds later. The darkness stretched forever. The beam of my flashlight barely touched the far wall. Then I saw it. A narrow passage hidden behind a collapsed section of rock. Not marked on any official map. My stomach tightened. The passage sloped downward sharply. Cold air flowed upward from somewhere far below. Air that smelled ancient. Stale. Wrong. I followed it. For nearly 20 minutes. The deeper I went, the stranger the cave became. The limestone walls gradually changed. Smooth surfaces appeared. Perfectly smooth. Not carved by water. Not shaped by nature. Almost polished. Like something had worn against them for centuries. The tunnel continued descending. Then suddenly opened. I stepped into a cavern so large my flashlight couldn't find the ceiling. My pulse accelerated. The space felt impossible. Massive stone pillars stretched upward into darkness. The floor vanished into shadows. The cavern seemed endless. And at its center stood hundreds of people. I immediately froze. Men. Women. Children. All motionless. All staring into darkness. My blood turned to ice. They weren't statues. They were people. Real people. Breathing. Blinking. Standing perfectly still. The missing hikers. The missing explorers. The missing tourists. Dozens of faces matched photographs from Reynolds' files. Some had vanished years ago. Others decades. Yet none appeared older. Not one. Then I realized something even worse. They weren't facing me. They were facing something deeper inside the cavern. Something hidden beyond my flashlight's reach. My stomach twisted. The people remained silent. Motionless. Waiting. Then one of them spoke. Without turning around. Without moving. A woman. Her voice sounded distant. Dreamlike. He counted you. Every muscle in my body locked. The woman slowly smiled. So now you're here too. The cavern echoed with soft laughter. Not from one person. From all of them. Hundreds. My pulse exploded. Then they finally turned toward me. Every face. Every missing person. Every smile. The exact same smile. The same one from the photographs. The same one worn by the stranger. The same one worn by the thing pretending to be human. I backed away immediately. The crowd didn't move. Didn't follow. Just watched. Then I heard footsteps behind me. Slow. Measured. Approaching. I spun around. My flashlight illuminated a tall figure standing in the darkness. The stranger from the tour. The man who wasn't on the roster. The man who didn't appear on cameras. My blood froze. His smile widened. 26. The number echoed through the cavern. Instantly every missing person repeated it. 26. 26. 26. The sound rolled through the darkness like a chant. Then the ground trembled. The entire cavern shook. Dust rained from above. Cracks appeared across the stone floor. The smiling crowd immediately fell silent. Fear appeared on their faces. Actual fear. My stomach dropped. Whatever they were looking at. They feared it. Then I heard something move. Far beyond the crowd. Far beyond the darkness. A sound unlike anything I'd ever heard. Not footsteps. Not breathing. Something larger. Much larger. The vibration traveled through the stone beneath my feet. The entire cavern seemed to pulse. Then my flashlight beam struck something impossible. A wall. Or what I initially thought was a wall. Until it blinked. My heart stopped. An eye. A gigantic eye. Opening somewhere deep in the darkness. Watching. Ancient. Aware. The pupil alone looked larger than a truck. My flashlight immediately died. Complete darkness swallowed the cavern. Then a voice emerged. Not from the people. Not from the stranger. From the darkness itself. A voice so deep it felt like it came from inside the earth. And it spoke a single sentence. One sentence that explained everything. The cave is almost full. Silence followed. Then somewhere around me, something began counting. 1, 2, 3. And this time, it wasn't counting people. It was counting exits. The cave is almost full. Those words echoed through the darkness long after the voice stopped speaking. My flashlight remained dead. The giant eye had vanished back into the blackness. And somewhere deep beneath Mammoth Cave, something continued counting. 4. The voice rolled through the cavern like distant thunder. The missing people immediately became restless. Hundreds of them. Men. Women. Children. All staring into the darkness with growing fear. The smiles were gone now. Every trace of happiness had vanished. For the first time they looked human. Terrified human beings. The stranger stepped toward me. The tall man from the tour. The one who never appeared on cameras. The one who always knew the count. His expression had changed too. He looked frightened. Genuinely frightened. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. You need to leave. My brain struggled to process the words. What? The stranger glanced toward the darkness. Toward the giant eye. Then back at me. It wakes every time the count increases. The cavern trembled. A distant rumble rolled through the stone. My stomach tightened. The count of what? The answer came from somewhere behind him. An elderly woman. One of the missing tourists. She stepped forward slowly. People. The word echoed through the cavern. My pulse accelerated. The old woman continued. The cave grows. A pause. And it fills. The realization hit me like a hammer. The missing people weren't being killed. They were being collected. Stored. Like pieces inside a living container. The cave wasn't expanding naturally. Something beneath Mammoth Cave was making room. Creating new tunnels. New chambers. New levels. My breathing became shallow. Then I remembered something. The official surveys. The endless discoveries. Every year Mammoth Cave grew larger. Every year explorers found new passages. Nobody ever questioned why. Nobody ever questioned how. Now I knew. The cave was alive. And it was getting bigger. The stranger nodded as if reading my thoughts. It digs. A chill crawled through my chest. The giant eye. The thing beneath the darkness. It was creating the cave system. For centuries. Possibly longer. The entire underground labyrinth existed because of it. Then another number echoed through the cavern. 5. The ground shook violently. Several people screamed. Dust poured from the ceiling. Cracks appeared across nearby walls. Something was changing. Something was waking up. The elderly woman suddenly grabbed my arm. Her hand felt freezing cold. You need to understand the rules. I stared at her. The old woman looked exhausted. Broken. Like she'd been trapped underground for decades. Maybe she had. Then she pointed toward the crowd. Toward the missing people. The rules aren't for visitors. My stomach tightened. There for it. Silence filled the cavern. The words felt impossible. Then she explained. Rule 1. If visitors hear footsteps behind the group, keep moving. Because it follows movement. Rule 2. Never allow the head count to change. Because it notices new arrivals. Rule 3. Ignore lights deeper in the cave. Because they lead toward it. Rule 4. Remove children immediately. Because children can hear it clearly. Every rule suddenly made sense. Every strange warning. Every unexplained instruction. They weren't protecting tourists from accidents. They were preventing contact. Preventing awareness. Preventing the thing beneath Mammoth Cave from noticing people. Then the old woman finally explained Rule 8. The rule that started everything. If the count increases, do not count again. My pulse hammered. She looked directly into my eyes. Because counting is how it finds you. The cavern became silent. Terrifyingly silent. Then the giant voice returned. Much closer this time. 6. The entire chamber shook. Screams erupted among the missing people. Panic spread instantly. The crowd began moving. Running. Fleeing deeper into the darkness. Away from the eye. Away from whatever was waking. The stranger grabbed my shoulder. His face had gone pale. You need to go. I pulled away. What about all of you? The question seemed almost ridiculous. The missing people. The trapped explorers. The lost tourists. Hundreds of lives. The stranger looked toward them. Then smiled sadly. Not the unnatural smile. A real one. The first real smile I'd seen underground. We're already counted. My blood froze. Then I understood. The missing people weren't prisoners. Not exactly. They were numbers. Recorded. Stored. Catalogued by something ancient. Something buried beneath Mammoth Cave. And once it counted you, it never forgot. The giant voice returned again. 7. The eye opened. I couldn't see it directly. Yet somehow I knew. The darkness around us seemed to bend. Shift. Move. The cavern felt alive. Hungry. Watching. Then every missing person turned toward me simultaneously. Hundreds of faces. Hundreds of voices. And they all spoke together. One sentence. One horrifying sentence. Run before it reaches 8. The stranger shoved me backward. Hard. I stumbled toward the tunnel entrance. The giant voice echoed once more. Louder than before. Closer than before. And this time, it sounded excited. Run before it reaches 8. The words echoed through the cavern. Hundreds of voices. Hundreds of terrified faces. Every missing person stared at me. Pleading. Warning. Begging. The stranger shoved me again. Harder this time. Go. I ran. The tunnel behind me shook violently. Dust exploded from the ceiling. Rock cracked. The entire unmapped level seemed to be collapsing. Or opening. I wasn't sure which possibility terrified me more. Behind me, the giant voice continued counting. Slow. Patient. Like it had all the time in the world. 7. The sound rolled through the stone. The ground trembled beneath my feet. I sprinted through the darkness. My flashlight flickered back to life. For a brief second the beam illuminated the passage ahead. Then I saw something impossible. The tunnel had changed. My blood froze. The route I used to enter no longer existed. New passages branched from every direction. New chambers stretched into darkness. The cave was growing. Actively growing. Walls moved. Stone shifted. Entire corridors formed before my eyes. The realization nearly stopped me. The thing beneath Mammoth Cave wasn't just alive. It was building. The entire cave system was part of it. A living structure. An endless maze expanding beneath Kentucky. My pulse hammered. Then the counting resumed. Closer now. Much closer. 8. Everything stopped. The cave. The movement. The shaking. The noise. All of it. Silence consumed the underground world. Absolute silence. And then, something opened its eyes. Not one eye. Thousands. The darkness around me suddenly glittered. Countless massive eyes opened throughout the cavern system. Embedded in walls. Ceilings. Floors. Watching. Every direction. Every angle. The entire cave was staring at me. My mind struggled to process what I was seeing. The eyes weren't separate creatures. They belonged to the cave itself. Or rather, the cave belonged to whatever owned those eyes. A horrifying realization crashed into me. The giant eye I saw earlier wasn't the creature. It was only one part of it. A tiny part. Like seeing a single scale on a dragon. My knees nearly buckled. Then the voice returned. Not from ahead. Not from behind. From everywhere. Inside the stone. Inside the air. Inside my skull. And it finally asked a question. How many? My blood ran cold. The words felt familiar. Then I remembered. The head counts. The missing people. The stranger. The rules. Everything had always revolved around counting. Because the thing beneath Mammoth Cave didn't hunt. It counted. That was its purpose. Its obsession. Its nature. Like a cosmic librarian cataloging every living thing that entered its domain. Every tourist. Every explorer. Every guide. Every lost soul. Counted. Recorded. Stored forever. Then the answer came. Not from me. From the darkness. Thousands of voices speaking together. The missing people. One more. The eyes blinked. The cavern shook. And suddenly memories flooded my mind. Not mine. The caves. Hundreds of years. Thousands. Native tribes entering ancient tunnels. Early settlers disappearing underground. Explorers wandering too deep. Entire groups vanishing without explanation. The thing beneath Mammoth Cave remembered all of them. Every face. Every name. Every heartbeat. Countless lives. Countless numbers. An endless collection. Then I saw the truth. The missing people weren't dead. Not exactly. They existed inside the memory of the cave. Preserved. Recorded. Like photographs trapped in stone. The crowd I met earlier wasn't physically present. They were echoes. Living memories. Stored by the thing beneath the earth. And now it wanted mine too. The giant voice spoke again. Gentle. Curious. Ancient. Stay. The single word terrified me more than anything else. Because beneath the horror, I felt something else. Loneliness. The unimaginable loneliness of a being older than human civilization. A thing buried underground for millennia. Watching. Counting. Remembering. Waiting. Forever waiting. The cave trembled. The eyes blinked again. And suddenly I understood why the rules existed. Not to stop it. Not to imprison it. To keep people from being noticed. Because once the cave noticed you, it wanted to remember you forever. Then I heard another voice. Human. Familiar. Reynolds. Ethan. The sound cut through the darkness. The eyes shifted. Thousands of them. Looking away from me. Toward the tunnel entrance. Toward the living world above. My chance. I ran. Faster than I had ever run in my life. The cave screamed behind me. Not in anger. In disappointment. The sound echoed through every corridor. Every chamber. Every tunnel. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. Minutes later I burst into echo chamber. Then the main passage. Then the surface. Fresh air hit my lungs. Moonlight blinded me. And for the first time in hours, the counting stopped. I resigned 2 weeks later. Officially, I cited stress. Fatigue. Personal reasons. Nobody argued. Reynolds simply nodded. Like he already understood. That was 5 years ago. I've never returned. I never will. But sometimes I still wake up in the middle of the night. And I hear it. A voice. Deep beneath the earth. Far below Kentucky. Counting. Slowly. Patiently. As if searching for someone. As if searching for me. And every year Mammoth Cave gets larger. Every year new tunnels appear. Every year explorers discover passages that shouldn't exist. The official explanation is geology. Natural expansion. Ancient erosion. The usual answers. The safe answers. The wrong answers. Because I know what's really happening down there. The cave is still growing. The cave is still counting. And one day, when the count becomes large enough, something beneath Mammoth Cave is finally going to finish its collection. Last month I received a photograph in the mail. No return address. No note. Just a single image. The picture showed a tour group inside Mammoth Cave. 23 visitors. 1 guide. And 1 extra figure standing in the darkness behind them. Smiling. Watching. Waiting. On the back of the photograph, someone had written a single sentence. The cave is almost full.